Hey everyone, Depressed Dior here, with I guess a little bit of some rules explanation and I guess a little bit of update. You can see a little bit of the future version of the Middara module. They started adding colors and fixing a few things here and there. As of right now, there's still backlog I'm going through of the playthrough I'm showing you guys. Um, I have just kind of recently finished playing through as much as I can. Of this module on my own, which is essentially all through Chapter 2. The only thing I didn't really go through is the bounty book, mainly because the bounty that's available does have loot that includes uncommon consumables, which we don't have access to yet. Um, as you can see, I kind of have some tiles and units and cards set up. The purpose of this is kind of to go through some of the AI stuff. I definitely made a number of mistakes with AI, at least through my own personal playthrough. I don't really know how many mistakes I may have made in my current Let's Play, but a lot of the cases, the mistakes I made would probably be things that were actually things that the monster would have done that are to its detriment. So all the mistakes were actually things that made it harder on me. I kind of I ended up actually asking a lot of questions towards the end of Chapter 2 because there were certain situations I was in that literally it was like life or death, essentially, as far as what could have happened or what ended up happening. And kind of thinking back, I kind of realized I've been kind of playing the AI very similar to how I play it in Kingdom Death Monster, or how you're supposed to play it in Kingdom Death Monster, which is whenever there's a conflict or a question, you usually go in the favor of the game rather than the players. In Middara, the general rule is you go in the favor of whoever's turn it is. So if it's the monsters, you go in favor of the monster. If it's a player, it goes in the favor of the player. Of course, any cold hard facts as far as rules are concerned take priority over everything else. So a number of things I kind of made a mistake on is usually things like what the AI is willing to do, um, even if it's dangerous. I kind of noticed it a few times. I think you might notice I had the AI do things like move through situations where it provoke break attacks because that was the only way it can accomplish certain goals. That stuff is completely legit. But there are generally a few rules you want to keep track of. They've recently updated the PDF rulebook to hopefully clarify things a little bit more, or at least have easier ways to access those rules by checking the index. For example, up to is now in the index, so it's very easy to go and find it. Up to and within versus within is probably the biggest thing you'll make mistakes for, but some of the moving farther and towards and away can sometimes also get a bit iffy as well. There's certain characters and monsters that would actually help me show some of these rules off better, but I am trying to avoid spoilers. As of recording this, I believe the Let's Play is at the point where we're still going through the vault. So we just may have just finished the vault. So I'm keeping that in mind. So the only things we have encountered so far are Cave Sickles, Gavad, and Water Loas, Earth Loas, and Animates. So with that, it should be enough to at least kind of show a few things off. So one of the most important things to keep in mind is the golden rules, which I think I may have mentioned before, but it's really kind of important to keep track of. In the case of multiple choices, I've kind of explained this one multiple times, which is if there's ever a choice between targets and things like that, you go based off initiative. So that's why I usually pick characters that are further up the initiative. So for example, if there was a conflict here, I would pick Nightingale over Rook and Rook over Remy, etc., etc. And then if there's ever a situation, let's see, yeah, I mentioned use the initiative tracker for tiebreakers, then determine targets. And it mentions if for whatever reason you can't use the initiative track to solve this issue or to solve this conflict, you pick the option that's most detrimental for the adventurers. This is consistent with what I said before, because this is based off the AI's turn, and you always pick things that are favorable to the AI, whoever's turn it is. But the next few steps are kind of important ones. So there's hurting themselves. The AI will be willing to do things that will cause it to be in danger, such as break attacks or doing jumps. But if it has the option to accomplish what it needs to do without doing those things, it will pick those over others. And then the last one is they will never, ever take a step that will guarantee their own defeat, unless otherwise stated. There's maybe one exception I can think of where a monster may purposely hurt itself, but those monsters particularly, they're known for blowing themselves up. So if there's ever a situation where you have to stop on top of like dangerous terrain, or you stop at the edge of dangerous terrain that happens to be water with current that leads you directly into dangerous terrain, if it's a guarantee it will kill you when you finish this action or you finish this step, you don't do it. Instead, you kind of do as much of that AI step as you possibly can. So for in the cases of like, moving away from somebody, you'll try to go as far as possible without killing yourself. So that's kind of the general thing. And then the last one is about aggro tokens and stuff like that, which most cases you're not going to have to worry about. All right. So with all that said and done, let's go ahead and talk a little bit of trying to accomplish these steps. So obvious ones are the first example I'm doing here is I'm taking an animate that's in melee range with Rook here. He's currently blocking majority of the way. So the animate here, if you look at its AI steps, of course it tries to heal itself, and then it'll check to see if there's an opponent adjacent. If there is, it'll make an attack. So it'll attack Rook. The outcome of it's not important at this point, as long as Rook stays alive. He will then move up to 2 spaces farther from the target. This movement does not provoke break attacks. So in this situation here, you can't move through opponent's squares. So the only options for moving further away is this way. Well, technically, it's either this way with a jump, this way with a jump, or this way with a jump. Now, the way farther goes is every step you take, it needs to be further away than the previous. Further away from whatever you're trying to get further away from. There's a few, I believe as long as the end destination is farther away, you will accomplish this task. So if for whatever reason you end up having to go, if you have like a lot of movement and you can like loop around and stuff, or loop around obstacles to get further and further away, you can do those things. So in the case of this AI step, to get 2 spaces further away, directly away would be this way, which means it will be a jump. And if this jump fails, it kills it. So that's a situation where it'll kill itself. But it's not a guaranteed death. You get to roll for it. So that's why it's exactly what the animate would do. So you can actually do things to kind of force the AI to actually move against you, or move against its best situation. Very much like a video game where you exploit its AI steps. And that's just one of the examples. Another one up here. So we got another one, which is if we take the Earth Lobas, can it move and attack an opponent within reach 2? You would do that. You would go move to be within reach 2 of the nearest opponent and make an attack. So in this situation, the Earth Loba could go directly across by jumping and then attacking, or it can go around and attack this way, or move around and stop here because it has 4 movement and attack with 2 reach. Obviously, like I mentioned before, if it has an option to take that's safer than the others, it will take that option. So it will not jump across and try to like do something like this. Instead, it'll go around and stop where it needs to stop. So it will avoid jumping in this case. Now, up here we have another Earth Loa, but we have Zeke here in a different position. If we try to do what we did before, which was the safe movement, Earth Loas have 4 movement. There's no combination of movement here that will actually get me within 2 reach of Zeke there. So the only way that Earth Loa can accomplish his movement step here, where it says can it move and attack an opponent within reach 2, it would have to jump and then move up. You can also technically move here or move here. And that is legitimate. That is stating that is the Earth Loa is, yes, it can move and attack an opponent with reach 2, even though it involves a jump. And of course, if it fails the jump, it kills itself. Now, if we were to take, we're gonna borrow Rook here and Zeke here. We're gonna take that AI step from before with the animate, where it moves 2 spaces further from the target. If I do a situation like this, where I'm blocking just about every route, now the AI is willing to jump 2 spaces. So it would have, well, actually, it doesn't need to do that. I don't need to do that one. Sorry. The AI is willing to jump 2 spaces, but in this case, jumps do count your movement as part of the jump. So it can only move 2 spaces further, so it can't actually make this jump because it would moving further would it will only be able to move 2 spaces even if it tried to make the full jump. And of course, it would stop on dangerous terrain, which would kill it. So in this situation where it's kind of blocked on all sides and can't really make any jumps and it can only move 2 spaces, you would just try to do as best as possible here, in which case you would just move 1 space away. So it would be kind of that situation. And if you're in a situation like this, where you're blocking everything, AI just wouldn't move, because every option that is available for moving 2 spaces away here is a guaranteed death, because it involves stopping in dangerous terrain. So that's a few things. I literally fought a boss where their AI step was to move to up to range 4 from a target, and I had them completely surrounded on a bridge, or kind of on a cave-like bridge. And so the only way for that boss to actually accomplish the step was to jump, and that jump failed, and so just immediately died. And the game does take it into account if you do kill certain bosses with falls. So it was kind of an interesting situation to be put into. But I wanted to go ahead and take this opportunity to do my best to kind of explain the AI and kind of the expectations. The last one I'm going to talk about is up to and within, which is the stuff I said was kind of the most difficult. If it's within, you can, as long as you're within whatever it states, you don't actually have to move any further. So, for example, if it says be within 4 spaces of nearest opponent, and you're already 4 or fewer spaces away, you don't have to move at all. Otherwise, it would try to meet the requirement through movement. Up to is a lot more different, where it will try to actually meet the requirement. So, for example, if you need to be up to range 4 away, you would, even if you were within range 4 already, you would move away to get to range 4. And that up to step was what actually killed the boss in my situation. So unfortunately, I don't really have any good ways of showing it off in this situation. I mean, I guess if we're to take let's see if we can take a cave sickle and make it happen. It has range 4, so we'll take a cave sickle here, and we'll borrow Zeke for a bit. We'll take the enemy out of the picture here. Yeah, I don't think I'll be able to do it. Yeah, this map is not it's not big enough, unfortunately. But essentially, it would, if it would, for whatever reason it had to move up to 4 away or something along those lines. And I don't know, we had like dangerous terrain here and here, and we're trying to get range 4 away, which essentially is 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 4, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so for whatever reason, if the cave sickle actually had an AI step that was just purely move up to range 4 away and then make a range attack, in this situation it would actually make a jump to get essentially out of range. It can even jump to a gap of 2, so it can jump here, and that'll put it within 1, 2, 3 range 4 here, and this will be a legal move. And again, if they fail the jump, they killed themselves, and that's just kind of how the AI step works. So it's definitely pretty important to kind of keep this in mind, because it could definitely give you a number of advantages in this game, because obviously the monsters can be very difficult, especially bosses. So if sometimes you can get very, very lucky, or if you're just very familiar with the game, you can try to exploit those AI steps as best as possible to kind of maximize your potentials for killing and minimizing their ability to actually hurt you. So that's kind of the gist of it. One thing I will point out for the latest version, or actually it's in the previous version as well, that you might have noticed I had a lot of issues with like measuring distances and things like that. It now actually the point of origin actually snaps whenever you click on something that like Zeke here, and if you connect it to something else, it actually snaps and makes the line for you. So once that actually gets updated, I will be using that. It'll be a little bit because obviously I have videos I'm still going through, but it's really good that they are still updating this. The people that made that made Middara and are updating it and doing the Kickstarter are very happy with Tabletop Simulator and the advantages it gives for things like playtesting. So very happy that they've been taking advantage of it. Anyway, I've rambled on enough. I just wanted to kind of show off some of the AI stuff. Like I mentioned before, I do have backlog I'm still going through. So some of this advice I've been giving about like up to and within and how the monsters will be willing to make certain risk. I may be still making those mistakes because obviously that is past me, and past me does not know all that much about the game compared to current me. So still learning the game as I go along. Like I mentioned before, I did get all the way through Chapter 2. So I'm hoping Chapter 3 comes out soon because I really want to see how it plays out. I think there's a total of 5 chapters for the first volume or whatever it's called. But anyway, I am the Depressed Hero. This was a little bit of a rules update for Middara. See you guys later.